Fighting back!
Brits are first!
Fighting back!
Over to the left a bit, over to the left. Brits are first!
Fighting back!
Brits are first!
Fighting back!
This was not a random protest, it was a full-scale national exorcism. It was the sound of a country finally ridding itself of the taste of betrayal. And who stands at the center of this eruption? None other than Sir Keir Starmer, the man who promised clarity but delivered cowardice, who promised vision yet offered vacuums. Let's be honest, crowds like this don't gather without a reason. You don't see working-class Brits marching in mass unless something deep within the national psyche has snapped. Starmer's endless U-turns, his robotic doublespeak, and his refusal to take real stands have all caught up with him. The public sees through the charade. He is not a man of the people, he is a man of the polls. And now, it's boiling over. The so-called leader of the opposition is being heckled in the streets like a disgraced reality show contestant. Why? Because he embodies everything that is wrong with modern politics, all wrapped up in a lifeless gray suit. Empty promises, bland slogans, a sterile script penned by PR firms devoid of any soul. The chant, "Gear armor is a wanker," is not just a slogan, it's a diagnosis. Birmingham is not just a city, it is a symbol, the beating heart of British industry, identity, and resistance. When thousands gather there to denounce the man who claims to represent them, that's not mere noise, that's a warning signal. Starmer may still be speaking in sound bites and policy platitudes, but the people are speaking in raw, unfiltered truth. You failed us. This was not a protest, it was a wake-up call, one loud enough for even Labour HQ to hear through its echo chamber. The myth of Starmer's quiet competence is crumbling. The man can't inspire loyalty, can't hold a crowd, and now he can't even walk the streets of Britain without facing public humiliation. The mask has slipped. Behind it lies just another hollow technocrat trying to survive long enough to seize power, even if that means standing for nothing and falling for everything. So yes, it's happening. Britain is waking up, and it's not doing so politely or diplomatically, but with one unified voice: Starmer, get out of the way. Right, gentlemen, thank you for joining me. On Monday, the Prime Minister will host Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, and Antonio Costa, President of the European Council. Agriculture, trade, security, and defense are all on the agenda. But I want to start with you, Brendan. What's in it for us? Well, I'd say very little. Given his current record, it makes me wonder exactly what he's going to give away this time. We've already experienced the chaos of the islands and the mess that came with it. It seems we're being offered little more than scraps, talking about passport gates at airports and so on. Something that many liberals seem to know about from their weekend trips to Florence, which I've always found a bit of a farce, to be honest. We don't seem to be getting anything out of it yet, while they're asking for access to our fishing waters. They're demanding alignment on trade and standards for other things just so we can have access to this defense fund, or, they'll be kind enough to then perhaps buy some of our equipment. Now, if they want to purchase standard equipment from others, they're clearly not serious about this defense issue. So, I'm genuinely concerned. I don't think he's going to come away with anything substantial. I believe this is just a cosmetic exercise. And as we've seen with the EU and Brexit, they generally don't negotiate in good faith. Reflecting on Keir Starmer's record, it makes me question what he's going to concede this time. With that single jab, Brendan Clark-Smith didn't just question Starmer's competence. He accurately predicted yet another chapter in Starmer's growing legacy of capitulation. Because let's face it, if there's one thing Keir Starmer excels at, it's surrendering. Surrendering principles, sacrificing national interests, and now, it appears, relinquishing trade leverage back to the very Brussels bureaucracy that the British people voted to escape from. Let's be clear, this is nothing less than what can only be described as the Surrender Summit. It's a carefully orchestrated spectacle where Sir Keir, the man who once fought tooth and nail against Brexit, is now attempting to repackage subservience as an economic strategy. What we are witnessing is not negotiation, it is appeasement dressed up in a bespoke suit. After years of undermining the democratic vote to leave the EU, Starmer now expects us to accept that he is the one capable of striking a bold new deal for the nation. This is not leadership, it is merely a rebranding of failure, illuminated under more flattering lights. What exactly does he intend to give away this time? Fishing rights. Regulatory alignment. The very ability for Britain to govern itself without the need for a translator from Brussels. If history serves as any guide, we ought to prepare ourselves for yet another humiliating retreat to the EU's doorstep, groveling for approval while pretending that this is somehow a display of pragmatism. Starmer is not a strategist, he is merely a political echo. He absorbs whatever his handlers believe will keep the Guardian content and the polls looking benign. He stood firmly against Brexit until it became politically inconvenient, only to pivot just enough to appear acceptable to the Red Wall voters, all the while never genuinely committing to the principle of British independence. Now, with this so-called trade summit on the horizon, we are observing that masks begin to slip once again. For deep down, what Starmer truly desires is not sovereignty but rather oversight. The irony is palpable, he calls this initiative getting Britain back on track. But back on which track are we being led? The one that had our economy shackled to the dictates of Brussels. The one that dismissed national votes and belittled our national identity. Starmer is not in the business of building a future, he is attempting to drag Britain back to a past that the voters have clearly rejected. Therefore, it is entirely justified for Brendan Clark-Smith to raise the question. Because if there is one thing that Starmer's track record indicates, it is that when the critical moment arises to stand firm, he invariably folds. When the nation is in dire need of strength and conviction, he offers only submission. And when given the opportunity to advocate for Britain's interests, he is far more inclined to champion the causes of others. This is not diplomacy, it is weakness masquerading as international cooperation. The United Kingdom deserves far better than a Prime Minister who perceives national pride as a flaw in negotiation. The stakes are too high, and the nation requires a leader who will stand resolutely for its values and interests, not one who is willing to capitulate at the first sign of pressure.